There's a strange silence that follows after she pulls away. No texts, no calls, no reaction to your stories. It feels like she's erased you. But what if I told you that silence isn't disinterest? It's processing. You see, when a woman stops reaching out, most men panic. They assume they've been forgotten, so they start reaching harder, messages, explanations, emotional proofs. But the truth is far colder and far more powerful. When a woman pulls back, her mind begins to wrestle with absence. And absence, when handled with discipline, becomes the loudest voice she'll ever hear. The Stoic man understands this. He doesn't chase the noise, he masters the pause. He knows that silence is not the end of attraction, it's the test of it. Every moment she spends wondering why you haven't broken first, she feels the slow burn of curiosity returning. That's how psychological gravity works. It's not about being seen, it's about being felt when you're no longer there. When you detach correctly, you become unforgettable. Because her emotions don't vanish, they recirculate. Every thought she tries to suppress finds its way back to you. Every conversation she has with someone else ends up comparing them to your calm. She checks your profile, rereads old texts, replays your tone in her head, not because you said something special, but because you stopped saying anything at all. This video isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the emotional mechanics of silence. You'll learn why space creates tension, why mystery revives desire, and how your restraint can turn her absence into her own obsession. You'll see how the man who stays composed when she withdraws gains more ground than the man who begs for clarity. Because women don't miss you when you remind them you exist. They miss you when your peace starts echoing louder than their noise. By the end of this video, you'll understand why she's quiet, why you should be quieter, and how that silence becomes your strongest form of influence. She's not reaching out, but her mind hasn't let you go. And when you master this art, you won't just make her think about you. You'll make her feel you in every silence she tries to escape. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course. It's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below, join the community, enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Section 1. The psychology of silence. Why her mind can't let go of what it can't reach. Silence is misunderstood. Most men see it as rejection. But in psychology, silence is one of the strongest emotional triggers a woman can experience. When you stop reaching out, her mind doesn't find peace. It finds space. And space is dangerous because the human brain hates unfinished stories. It starts filling in the blanks, replaying moments, searching for closure. That's when she begins to feel you again. Not because you're present, but because your absence demands explanation. When a woman pulls away, she expects you to react. She expects pursuit, reassurance, or at least proof that she still has control over your emotions. That's how most men fail, by confirming that her distance still dictates their behavior. But the Stoic man does something completely different. He embraces silence as strategy. He lets her uncertainty breathe. Because in uncertainty, attraction doesn't die. It multiplies. You see, the mind can't stop thinking about what it doesn't fully understand. When you go quiet, she's forced to confront the question, why isn't he chasing me? That single thought becomes a seed of curiosity, then anxiety, then longing. The very silence she thought she wanted becomes the echo that keeps you in her head. This is the paradox of detachment. The less you seek validation, the more she starts validating your worth internally. Silence also flips the emotional dynamic. Before she had control, you were reacting, adjusting, explaining. But when you withdraw gracefully, she loses her grip on the narrative. She expected closure, but your calm leaves her suspended in emotional ambiguity. That's the moment her attraction reawakens. Not through words, but through wonder. Because nothing haunts a woman more than a man she can't read anymore. The Stoic man doesn't weaponize silence. He disciplines it. He doesn't ghost or vanish with bitterness. He simply moves with peace. His energy shifts from proving his value to living it. And that quiet transformation speaks louder than any message could. When she sees you calm, detached, and focused, her mind can't reconcile the version of you she left with the version that no longer reacts. That internal conflict keeps you alive in her thoughts long after communication stops. Silence isn't about ignoring her, it's about returning to yourself. It's not punishment, it's presence. You're teaching her something her emotions won't forget. That peace doesn't chase chaos. And the longer you remain still, the louder your value becomes. So when she doesn't reach out, don't mistake it for forgetting. Understand that her silence is the beginning of reflection. You've become the thought she can't quiet, not because you fought for attention, but because you withdrew it with purpose. Because the truth is simple. People forget noise, but they always remember what they felt in the quiet. Section 2, the emotional echo. How distance turns absence into desire. When a woman stops hearing from you, she doesn't stop feeling you. What you must understand is that emotions have echoes. They linger long after words fade. Every moment of calm confidence, every measured pause, every silence that used to frustrate her, all of it stays imprinted in her emotional memory. The Stoic man knows that presence doesn't disappear when you walk away. It expands into the empty space she created. That's where the echo begins. In psychology, distance amplifies emotion. When someone loses access to a source of attention, their mind begins to overvalue it. It's called the scarcity effect. When you are always available, your energy was predictable. But when you pull back, your presence becomes rare. And rarity breeds obsession. She starts thinking about what you're doing, who you're seeing, whether you've stopped caring. And in that uncertainty, her emotions begin replaying every version of you she once felt connected to. This is where most men fail. They break the silence too early, chasing clarity instead of creating contrast. But the Stoic man understands that distance isn't punishment, it's perspective. It allows her to experience life without your energy and realize the difference it made. You don't remind her of your worth through words. You let her feel the lack of it. The emptiness she tried to create becomes the mirror that reflects your value back to her. Every thought she tries to suppress eventually rebounds. She'll tell herself she's moved on. She'll distract herself with others. She'll pretend to forget. But emotional bonds don't vanish. They fade slowly. And silence slows that fade even further. Because every quiet day becomes a small reminder. He's really gone. And the more she tries to convince herself she's fine, the more that echo grows. What amplifies the echo even more is your composure. When you don't chase, when you don't try to prove, when you continue to move with focus and calm energy, her emotions start to shift. You're no longer the man she assumed she could control. You've become something rarer, the man who doesn't flinch. And nothing triggers reflection in a woman like realizing she lost emotional influence over a man who once cared deeply. This is not manipulation, it's emotional gravity. The calmer you remain, the deeper your absence sinks into her consciousness. You're no longer fighting for attention. Your silence is doing the work for you. Every moment she tries to ignore you, she reinforces the pattern of thinking about you. That's how absence becomes desire. Not because she's lonely, but because she starts missing the peace that your presence once brought. Distance doesn't destroy attraction, it distills it. It filters out drama, ego, and performance, leaving only the essence of connection. And if that connection was real, it begins to echo louder in your absence than it ever did in your presence. Because silence, when mastered, doesn't erase emotion, it amplifies it. Section 3, the power of detachment. How letting go makes you irresistible. Detachment is the quiet superpower most men never master. They think love means holding tighter, proving harder, convincing stronger. But attachment built on fear only creates weakness. The Stoic man understands that letting go isn't rejection, it's refinement. It's the ability to care deeply without clinging, to love fully without losing self-respect. Detachment doesn't kill attraction. It creates it because nothing is more magnetic than a man who can walk away with peace in his eyes. When you let go, you shift from emotional dependency to emotional authority. You stop asking, does she still care? And start affirming, I'm still grounded. That shift alone changes everything. Most men believe detachment will make them seem cold, But the truth is the opposite. It makes you calm, and calmness is irresistible. It signals control. And in psychology, control equals security. A woman might not understand why, but she feels it. The stability in your silence, the peace in your restraint. She begins to wonder how you can remain so composed while she's still figuring out her own emotions. The beauty of detachment is that it redeefs power. Power no longer means dominating others, it means dominating yourself. The man who can observe his emotions without being controlled by them becomes unshakable, and when you're unshakable, you become unforgettable. Because people are drawn to those who stay centered while the rest of the world wavers. That steadiness is rare, and rarity is the foundation of attraction. When you stop reaching out, you're not rejecting her. You're respecting your peace. You're teaching her that your attention isn't infinite, that your energy has boundaries. You're showing her that love from you is valuable because it's not given out of need, but from choice. And that choice is what separates you from men who crumble when affection fades. You're not running away. You're rising above. You're giving both of you the space to feel the difference between love and attachment. In that space, something powerful happens. Her emotions begin to chase what her ego once resisted, because detachment doesn't erase connection, it purifies it. When she realizes she can no longer pull your focus at will, she starts craving your attention more than ever. But this time, it's not because of what you're saying or doing, it's because of what you've become. The Stoic man's detachment isn't silence born from pain, it's silence born from mastery. He doesn't need to win her back, he only needs to remain aligned with himself. And in doing so, he becomes the kind of man women don't just want, they respect. Because detachment isn't the absence of feeling, it's the presence of discipline. And discipline, when mixed with mystery, becomes the most powerful form of attraction there is. Section 4. The mirror effect. When your calm makes her question herself. When a woman pulls away and you stay calm, something subtle but profound happens. Her emotions turn inward. Your composure becomes a mirror that reflects her own chaos back to her. The more balanced you remain, the more her mind begins to question why she isn't. That's the mirror effect. A silent psychological shift that occurs when your peace highlights her confusion. You're not reacting, not explaining, not demanding. And that stillness forces her to confront what she tried to avoid herself. You see, emotional energy always seeks contrast. When she's chaotic and you match her chaos, she feels justified. But when she's chaotic and you remain centered, her emotions have nowhere to land. They rebound inward. That's when reflection begins. She starts remembering how grounded you were, how consistent your tone was, how you never raised your voice when she tested your patience. She replays those moments not out of guilt, but out of comparison. Every new interaction she has now becomes measured against your calm. Every man she meets who overreacts only deepens her respect for your restraint. The Stoic man doesn't use calmness as a tactic. It's his nature. He doesn't need to fake composure because it's built into his frame. That's why it affects her so deeply. His lack of emotional volatility makes him feel safe, but it also makes him feel unreachable. And that duality is powerful. It creates the tension between comfort and curiosity. She feels peace thinking about him, but frustration not knowing what he's thinking. That's what keeps her mind tethered even in silence. The mirror effect also exposes authenticity. Your restraint shows that you weren't acting for attention, you were simply being. That realization makes her wonder, did I misread him? Did I mistake stillness for disinterest? Did I underestimate him? Those questions create mental friction, and friction fuels thought. She's not thinking of you because you forced it. She's thinking of you because she can't reconcile her image of you with the strength you've shown since. Every time she checks your page or replays your words, she's subconsciously testing her own decision. And the more peaceful you seem, the more her ego begins to crack. Because in the end, the calm man wins not by argument, but by reflection. His silence becomes her self-inquiry. His absence becomes her inner dialogue. His peace becomes her discomfort. And eventually her curiosity turns into desire. This is why you never chase a woman who withdraws. When you remain calm, you allow her to experience her emotions without interference. And when the storm quiets, the memory of your stability stands tall among the ruins of her reactions. Because calmness isn't passive, it's pressure. It's the invisible gravity that pulls her thoughts back toward the one thing she can't replicate: you. Section 5. The pull of mystery. Why the unknown version of you becomes her obsession. Mystery is not about withholding information. It's about allowing imagination to do the work for you. When you step back, when you stop explaining yourself, when you no longer try to convince her how much you care, you activate one of the most powerful forces in human psychology: curiosity. A woman cannot stop thinking about what she doesn't fully understand. And when you become quiet, composed, and unpredictable, her mind starts to wander into that silence. It begins building stories around you. And that's where attraction quietly turns into obsession. At first, she tries to suppress her thoughts. She tells herself she's moved on, that your silence doesn't matter, that she's not affected. But the more she tries to rationalize, the more her emotions rebel. Because in truth, curiosity and emotion are inseparable. The less she knows, the more she feels. She begins checking your last activity online, reading old texts, remembering your tone in old conversations. Every memory becomes amplified because she no longer has access to your current energy. You've become a mystery, and mystery is addictive. The Stoic man doesn't create mystery intentionally. It's a byproduct of his discipline. His absence doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like depth. His silence doesn't signal disinterest. It signals control. He doesn't overshare or announce what he's doing. He simply lives. And in that quiet living, she senses motion without visibility. That uncertainty captures her imagination far more than any text ever could, because the human mind craves patterns, and when it can't find one, it starts replaying everything it already knows. Every time she sees something that reminds her of you, her mind attaches emotion to it. That scent, that song, that place. All of it becomes emotional currency tied to your memory. And the more she thinks, the less she understands why she can't stop thinking. That confusion turns into longing, and longing becomes emotional tension. You didn't have to speak, perform, or chase. You just had to disappear correctly. But here's the beauty of mystery. It works only when you're genuinely detached. If you're waiting for her to notice your silence, it loses its power. If you're still checking her page daily, she'll feel that invisible pull of need. Mystery requires mastery, the ability to walk away with peace, not with pretense. When you do, your energy shifts from reactive to rare. You become a riddle she can't solve, not because you're hiding, but because you've evolved. That's why mystery is irresistible. It's proof of independence. It tells her that your life doesn't revolve around her attention, that your happiness doesn't rely on her affection. And nothing draws a woman closer than realizing she's no longer the center of your world, yet still wants to be part of it. Because mystery isn't distance, it's direction. And when you learn to move in silence, her curiosity will do the chasing for you. Section 6. The energy shift. How focusing on yourself makes her feel you stronger. There's a paradox few men ever understand. The moment you stop giving her your energy, she begins to feel it more. Attraction isn't created by pursuit. It's created by polarity. When your energy turns inward, when your focus returns to your mission, your silence starts speaking in frequencies she can't ignore. You stop being a man who needs attention to feel alive and become a man whose direction generates gravity. That shift is what turns quiet. Detachment into irresistible presence. Most men try to move on by pretending not to care, but pretending isn't power. Transmutation is. The Stoic man doesn't waste his energy suppressing emotion. He redirects it into purpose. He channels the same intensity that once sought reassurance into building himself. And that transformation sends a silent message she can't unfurl. You're not waiting. You're evolving. While she's wondering why you vanished, your world is expanding. Your focus sharper, your body stronger, your aura calmer. That kind of progress becomes vibration. And vibration always travels further than words. Energy never disappears. It only changes direction. When you stop chasing her, the energy that once flowed outward begins to circulate within you. Your presence grows heavier, denser, more composed. The people around you start to feel it, and so does she, because even without contact, emotional bonds remain energetic. She'll sense the difference before she ever sees it. Your energy no longer reaches for her, it radiates from you. That's when curiosity replaces comfort, and comfort turns into craving. This is why focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's magnetic. Every hour you invest in your goals, every boundary you reinforce, every day you grow calmer instead of reactive. You're creating a version of yourself her mind can't compete with. She might not message you, but she's checking. She might not mention you, but she's remembering. She might act indifferent, but every new version of you she sees silently reminds her what she lost when she mistook your peace for passivity. But here's the key. You don't evolve for her. You evolve because you can. You become sharper, not to provoke regret, but to live aligned. You focus on yourself because it's the only domain you truly control. That kind of focus makes you untouchable. Not because you're distant, but because you've built an inner world no one else can disturb. That's the real essence of masculine energy. Quiet progression that doesn't need applause. And the irony, when you stop trying to prove your value, people start feeling it. Your silence begins to carry the weight of growth. Your absence starts to smell like evolution. And your peace becomes power she can't quite explain. Because the more you pour into yourself, the more the world, including her, starts noticing. You're no longer chasing connection. You've become the source of it. At the end of it all, the truth is simple. She doesn't have to reach out for you to matter. In fact, it's your silence, your discipline, your refusal to chase that makes her feel your presence louder than ever. You've walked through the storm most men never survive. The storm of withdrawal, uncertainty, and pride. You've faced the ache of her silence and learned to breathe inside it. You've discovered that the real battle was never between you and her. It was between you and your own attachment. And the day you mastered that, you became untouchable. You've seen how silence works, how it echoes louder than words. You've understood how absence turns into reflection, how mystery rewires desire, and how detachment becomes dignity. You've felt the mirror effect, your calm unsettling her emotions, your peace exposing her confusion. You've witnessed the energy shift when your focus stopped orbiting her and started expanding your world. And finally, you've arrived at the truth. Her silence no longer defines you because you've built a peace that speaks for itself. That's the Stoic victory. Not revenge, not validation, but equilibrium. You're no longer waiting for her to call, text, or remember. You've outgrown the need for external confirmation. You've become the man who lives his life so completely that no silence can disrupt it. The same stillness that once felt like emptiness has turned into power, because silence when owned becomes strength and peace when protected becomes presence. What she's feeling now isn't mystery. It's the absence of the energy that used to validate her. She's not confused because you changed. She's confused because you stopped responding to the version of herself that once had control. That's the paradox of growth. The moment you stop needing her attention, she starts needing your energy. But by then, your heart has matured beyond the hunger for being seen. You've learned to become the kind of man who doesn't need to be remembered because his presence leaves an imprint too deep to fade. The Stoic man doesn't move to prove, he moves to evolve. He doesn't use silence to manipulate, he uses it to mature. He doesn't chase connection, he embodies it. And that embodiment makes him magnetic in a way that words can't capture. So if she's not reaching out, understand. She's still thinking, still wondering, still comparing every moment of chaos to the calm she once felt with you. But none of that matters now because your peace is no longer a strategy. It's your state. You've become what she can't replace. A man who doesn't need to be found to know his worth. And in a world full of men who chase noise, you've mastered the silence that speaks volumes. Because in the end, she may never reach out again, but she'll never stop feeling the man who finally reached himself. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at thestoiccouple.podia.com. Enroll once, grow forever.